Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Today, we are answering some frequently asked questions about body recomposition. So in case you haven't listened to my previous episodes about body recomposition, highly recommend listening to those. I will link them in the show notes. But just to kind of overview what body recomposition is, body recomposition is losing fat while gaining muscle. It can also be fat loss while maintaining muscle, or it can be maintaining fat mass while gaining muscle mass. Anything that increases the ratio of lean mass to fat mass. Now, a lot of people, their goal is to decrease fat mass while increasing muscle mass, and that's oftentimes how I speak to it. So that's kind of what I'll talk about here, but just know that you don't necessarily, fat mass can stay constant and you can still body recomposition by increasing the ratio of lean mass to fat mass. So how to body recomposition if your goal is to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. Let's start with exercise. Strength train close to failure and keep overall activity high. So shoot for 150 minutes per week of light to moderate intensity cardio. Structure is key. You want to lift weights and target each muscle group 1 to 2 times per week on non-consecutive days. Having a structured program like Evlo, key to results. And then nutrition. You'll find your total daily energy expenditure, and you can use a calculator online, or we have a guide in the Evlo membership, and be in a slight calorie deficit if your goal is to lose fat, around 200 calories. I've seen other registered dietitians say that you can actually start at maintenance and still lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. This might be something that you kind of have to play with because these calculators for calculating your total daily energy expenditure are not super accurate. Metabolism is super complex. So you might need to tinker with this and play with this a little bit. Oh, and then protein, eating 0.75 to 1 grams of protein per pound of body weight per day so that you can build muscle. If you don't know where you are with your calories and your protein, you may track using something like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer to see where you're landing. If you aren't seeing results and you aren't tracking, try getting really precise with your tracking. A lot of people think they're eating clean, but they're unknowingly eating in a calorie surplus. Maybe the coffee creamer that you're putting in or sauces or drinks, and those things can add up and might put you in like a 200 calorie surplus unknowingly, even though you feel like you're quote unquote eating clean. So maybe try tracking and kind of see where you're landing. All right, so question number 1. Why do I feel bigger after strength training? This could be for several reasons. Number 1, you may be increasing mass overall. If you're building muscle and not losing fat, you will have more mass. If your goal is to lose fat mass, it may mean tweaking your nutrition slightly. I've seen people panic after they start strength training and kind of go back to their low load workouts and then just lose muscle again. But since they're losing muscle, they feel overall smaller when in fact they now have a negative effect on their body composition because they have now a higher fat mass compared to their muscle mass. So continue to strength train. If you feel like you're getting quote unquote bigger overall, you might tweak nutrition slightly. And then number 2, another reason why you might feel bigger after strength training is when we strength train, we have cell swelling that can last for days after training. This tends to diminish after some consistency with training, but if you're newer to strength training and you feel bigger after the first month or 2, it could be in part from cell swelling, not necessarily because you've gained significant amount of muscle mass. Muscle mass, if you're new to training, takes anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks. So if you're feeling bigger in those first couple of months, it's not because you put on a ton of muscle. It could just because you have some slight swelling. So by kind of tweaking nutrition and knowing that you might have some swelling that will diminish after a couple of months, that will help with the idea of feeling quote unquote bigger after strength training. Question number 2, how long will it take for me to see body composition changes? Fat loss and muscle gain happen at different rates. In general, it takes about 8 to 12 weeks to see a visual difference in muscle mass if you are new to strength training. If you're not new to strength training and you've just taken a break, like if you're postpartum, like I've been, it might come back a lot quicker. I've seen noticeable changes in just 1 month after strength training consistently. And this is probably because I've already set strong foundations and strong neuromuscular connections so that muscle growth happens much quicker. But if you're newer to strength training, it could take anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks to see visual change. What about fat loss? Fat loss can happen really within the first couple of weeks. If you are losing fat and gaining muscle, the scale might not change very much, so I don't recommend weighing yourself. But fat loss, if you're using nutrition to lose fat, that can happen really within the first couple of weeks. I always say don't rush this process though. Don't feel like you're going to have a transformation in 1 month. Body recomposition is a slow process, but I like it that way because it's really sustainable. Question number 3, how to track progress. So how to track if I am gaining muscle and losing fat. So speaking of the scale, I recommend tracking progress by either going by how your clothes fit or visual difference that you're seeing. So if you're seeing more visual muscle mass, or by getting a DEXA scan. Some cities have this company called Body Spec or something similar where you can get a body scan for relatively cheap, but other cities don't have that, and a DEXA scan might be prohibitively expensive. So you certainly do not need to get a DEXA scan. You can visually tell when you have more muscle mass. Like just by looking in the mirror, you'll be able to tell. Also, if you're getting stronger in your workouts and you're noticing more visual change in your muscle mass, you are gaining muscle. So don't feel like you have to get a DEXA scan in order to visually see the difference. Question number 4, if I'm tracking food, should I also track the calories burned from my workout? In short, no. Fitness wearables are notoriously bad at estimating calorie burn, and that they generally overestimate the calorie burn from your workout. So if your fitness watch tells you that you burn 400 calories in your workout, and maybe you're in reality only burning 200 calories, you may be unknowingly eating in a surplus if you're adding that to your nutrition tracker. So simply find your total daily energy expenditure and either eat at maintenance or, again, in that slight calorie deficit, because your total daily energy expenditure number will already account for your activity. So don't add exercise in addition to that. Question number 5, what app do I use to track my food? I use Chronometer, but I've used MyFitnessPal in the past and it works just as well. Question number 6, if I get a DEXA and I'm not building muscle, what am I doing wrong? So 2 things that come to mind. Number 1, DEXA scans are the best way that we have currently to measure muscle mass, but they can still be slightly inaccurate. For example, if you ate and drank right before your first scan, like if you had lunch and had like a big thing of water right before your first scan, but your second scan, you ate on an empty stomach with not a lot of water, it's going to report less lean mass because the DEXA scan registers anything in your stomach, so water and food, as additional lean mass. So how you would see that on your DEXA scan, a lot of DEXA scans will break up by body part how much muscle you're gaining. So if you're seeing a lot more muscle gain in your trunk specifically, or muscle loss in your trunk specifically, this could be because of food. So if you are getting a DEXA scan, try to eat and drink similarly each time so that you can standardize that. And then the second thing is that if that's not the case and you're like, no, it says I'm losing muscle in my leg, or I'm not gaining muscle in my legs and in my arms and in my glutes and things like that, I would make sure that you are, number 1, eating enough protein, and number 2, actually training close to failure. Lifting weights does not mean that you're building muscle or getting stronger. If you are not getting close to failure in less than 30 reps, you are not providing a strong enough stimulus to build muscle. So if you're doing arm exercises for 30 plus reps and it's burning and fatiguing, that isn't building muscle. You have to actually approach true muscular failure where you cannot complete another rep. A good way to tell is that your velocity will decrease. So on your last rep, try as hard as possible to lift the weight quickly. And if you can quickly lift the weight, you aren't close to failure. It's something that I say all the time on this podcast. I'm so sorry if I'm a broken record, but I realize that some people might only listen to this episode and not the others. And then a second reason why you could not be gaining muscle is if you're an EVLA member, it could be because you think you're getting close, 3-4 reps shy of failure, but you might not actually be getting 3 or 4 reps shy of failure. There's one study that I read, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it, but y'all can look it up. People think that they're getting close to failure when in reality they're getting about 9 reps shy of failure, which won't be a very effective stimulus for building muscle. So what you could do is try lifting a little bit heavier, try going up in your weights a little bit, try approaching failure a little bit closer, and see if that makes a difference for you. Question number 7, should I do more cardio to accelerate fat loss? I've done a podcast episode about how doing endless cardio is really a waste of energy because your body plateaus around 800 active calories per day. So if you are sedentary and you're just doing your 35-minute EVLA workout and no other movement throughout the day, yes, adding some cardio would be helpful. But if you're already getting in that 150 minutes of light to moderate intensity cardio in addition to your strength workouts, adding additional cardio likely won't do much. Question number 8. What to do if I calculate my total daily energy expenditure and I subtract 200 to be in that calorie deficit and the calories are really low? Or sometimes we'll get this question if you are in the Evlo membership and we have a nutrition guide that was created by a registered dietitian, and it'll help you calculate your calories if your goal is body recomposition. And a lot of people, if you're shorter or if you're smaller overall, that number can be really small because a smaller person burns less calories overall because there's less tissue to serve. And that's whether that's fat tissue or muscle tissue. If you just weigh less, your total daily energy expenditure, according to that calculator, will be lower. So if your calories seem really low, or if they seem like something that you're like, okay, this doesn't feel like I could be sustainable with this, or I'd be starving all the time, that is not what we're recommending. This is just a formula to kind of give you a ballpark. We never want to recommend something that feels unsustainable for you. So what we recommend is, if that's the case and you get a number that you're like, that is way too low, we are not encouraging you to stick to that number. If it feels way too low, go work with a registered dietitian. Again, metabolism is complex, so they can really help create a sustainable and suitable plan for you. Hope Brandt is the RD that many Evlo members have worked with, and they love her. We rave about her. We work with her a lot in Evlo, so I know she takes clients. I will put her website in the show notes below. And the final question, should I do my workout of the day if I'm really sore? So if you are not sore in the muscle groups that you're targeting that day, go ahead and do the workout. Like if your arms are sore, but your legs feel fresh and you're working legs that day, go ahead and do the workout. But if you don't feel recovered overall, like if you feel tired, if you feel like your limbs are heavy, your grip strength feels weak, you feel just like really sore and depleted, it may be worth shifting your schedule so you take an extra recovery day where you maybe just do some light cardio like a walk. You can train sore, and it's not that a big deal now and again, but if you're constantly sore, it means you're overdoing it. I think a lot of people think that soreness is like a stamp of a more effective routine. I don't believe that. I think that light to no muscle soreness is really ideal, especially if you've been training for a long time. You should not be constantly sore all the time. So the reason that it's not effective to train super sore or to be super sore all the time is because muscle growth happens in recovery. So you won't have the same amount of recovery if you're constantly sore because your workouts might be too intense or kind of beating you up. You also won't have the same quality workout if you're sore all the time and you're going into your workout training sore, right? You're not going to be able to put in the same quality of effort that you could if you felt more fresh. All right, those are just some frequently asked questions. Hope that was helpful. We'll see you all next time. Bye.